The floorboards of the Victorian on Oglethorpe Avenue didn't just creak, they whispered. My daughter Eleanor and her husband Marcus didn't hear them. They were too busy measuring the parlour for open-concept minimalism, their voices sharp and clinical against the velvet wallpaper. "We'll need the deed by Friday, Mom," Elena said, not looking up from her tablet. "The contractors are booked. It's for your own good. This house is a tomb. You and Dad need a managed suite where people can actually monitor you." My husband, Arthur, sat in his wingback chair, his hands trembling, not from age, but from a secret he'd carried since the height of the Cold War. When they finally left, locking the front deadbolt with a definitive thud, Arthur looked at me. His eyes, usually clouded by the fog of his twilight years, were suddenly like flint. "Ida," he rasped, "get the loose floorboard under the radiator, the one with the burn mark." I knelt, my joints popping, and pried up the wood. Beneath the dust lay a heavy oilcloth-wrapped bundle. Inside wasn't a deed but a ledger and a series of encrypted microfiches. "They think they're the architects of this family," Arthur whispered, "but they don't know who laid the foundation." For 30 years we were the Holloways. Arthur was a respected civil engineer. I was a librarian. We were the picture of mid-century stability in Savannah. Elena had built her entire social standing on being a Holloway, a name synonymous with the restoration of the city's historic district. But as I spent the next 3 days in the basement, where Elena had moved our clutter, I didn't pack. I used my old library microfilm reader hidden behind a stack of National Geographics to finally look at what we had been hiding. The documents didn't show a lineage of engineers, they showed a trail of systemic erasure. We weren't Holloways, we were the Vances. Arthur's father hadn't died in a construction accident. He had been a whistleblower for a chemical conglomerate that had poisoned the very land Elena was now trying to develop into luxury condos. The Holloway identity was a federal gift, a witness protection shell that had expired decades ago, kept alive only by Arthur's silence. On Friday, Elena and Marcus arrived with a notary. They found us in the dining room, the silver polished, the air smelling of Earl Grey and ozone. "Ready to sign, Mom?" Elena asked, sliding a fountain pen toward me. "It's a graceful exit." I looked at her and spoke in a voice as smooth as the tea. "A name is a fragile thing, Elena. You've spent 40 years preening under the Holloway crest. You've used it to get your board seats, your country club memberships, and your development permits." Marcus chuckled, remarking that it was a good name and that's why they were keeping it on the building. "It's a lie," Arthur said, standing up without his cane, "and if you move us out of this house, the lie moves into the light." I slid a photocopy across the table. It wasn't the deed. It was a 1974 newspaper clipping from a town 3 states away, featuring a photo of a young Arthur Vance standing over a casket labelled "Son of Traitor Fleas After Scandal." "If you force us into that managed suite, I will hand the original files to the Savannah Morning News," I said. "Every contract you've signed as a Holloway becomes a fraudulent document. Every permit, every loan, every social tie, gone. You won't be socialites. You'll be the children of a ghost with a criminal record." The room went cold. Eleanor's face turned the colour of the eggshell paint she wanted for the walls. She looked at the pen, then at the paper, then at the father she thought she had outsmarted. "You wouldn't," she whispered. "It would ruin you too." I smiled, feeling the sharp, exhilarating bite of my own power. "We're 78, darling. We've already lived our lives. You're the one who still has everything to lose." I stood up and began to clear the tea. "Now," I said, "I believe there's a wall in the parlour you were planning to tear down. Leave it. And Marcus? Change the locks back. I prefer the old ones." They left within 10 minutes, the open concept plans forgotten on the rug. Arthur and I sat back down in the quiet, the house breathing with us once more. The secret had been a burden for 39 years, but in the end, It was the only thing that kept the roof over our heads.